But I'm as proud of this as Mr. Anybody. Really, I brag on myself to self every once in a while, how well it's come apart. Well, my name is Hilbert Middleton. I was born in, I just had a collapse. I was born January the 24th, 1928. I was the third child of the family of 11. Had two older sisters. Lucille was the oldest, and then Dorothy, and then me. I had 5 brothers and 5 sisters. Had 3 older sisters. And we were born back when we were poor folks. Where I was at, everybody was poor. And the new families that's starting would have from 13 down to 6, I guess, children. And we were awfully poor, but most people had a milk cow and a few chickens. That's kind of what we lived on mostly. And money was something there wasn't none. There just wasn't no money, 1928, 29, in them years. But now there's money everywhere. I don't know. We worry about that being too much money. But we lived through hard times, me and my bunch did. And we walked a mile or more to school, and we'd walk the railroad. We had a good railroad always through our towns down there. And just one day I was going home from school, and I seen a box laying here beside the railroad track. And I looked at it, well, that ain't been opened. I wonder what that is. So I got that box and took it home, and it was full of dresses. They were colored dresses, and that suited my sisters real well because they had very few clothes. What they did have, Mom would probably made them out of flour sacks and stuff like that. But they were dressed up. They had new dresses. God took care of them. Just used me as an instrument to carry them home. Well, when I went to school, that was punishment to me. I didn't want to be there. Really. And I had a few buddies kind of like I was. We'd rather be at work than we had to be in at school. I just couldn't learn. I just didn't want to and just didn't put my mind to it. But now when I went to high school one year, I took algebra, and I loved algebra, and it was the easiest thing in the world for me to work algebra. It was just a breeze. But I went one year and started the second year in high school, and I just couldn't stand it. So I got out and went to work and been happy ever since. I had 10 brothers, or not 10 brothers, but 10 brothers and sisters, and we didn't have anything. My mother could have got it, she would have had it, but my dad could live being poor. He didn't try real hard to get ahead much. He just living was okay with him. But Mom was a little more conservative. It was good to have frog legs on. We had lots of frogs back in our younger days. And we'd take a light and go out up these creeks and take a sack and get a half a sack of them frogs and skin them and fry them. They put them frog legs in that skillet in that hot grease, so he may jump out of that frying pan. That leg would. That's what he's supposed to do, jump. They were pretty good. We would sell them, ship them, pack them in ice and ship them, and they'd bring in a little money. But I'd tell you the price, I couldn't tell you that. Hey, back at that time, you'd be surprised how big them old frogs got. They're great big old green-headed frogs, you know. My dad and Mom was good people, and they didn't have nothing much, but they had more than some people did. Mom liked cows, and she liked chickens, and anywhere she went, she hauled them chickens with her, took that milk cow with her. And if you got a milk cow and chickens, you can have a little bit of food. That's Mom realized that. But some people didn't even have that, you know, they didn't have nothing. Just to sleep on a shuck bed on. They tell them stories pretty often, guys like me, about going home with their neighbor and sleeping on them shuck beds, how noisy they were. I never strayed away from home very little. Always. Mom always told me, you get home before dark, and I tried to obey her. The best thing I guess I had to eat was squirrels. We eat squirrels, squirrel eggs. The wife, she got to where she wouldn't eat the meat. She'd fry them heads along with the squirrel meat and crack that head open and eat the brain, eat them squirrel brains. That was her best deal. I never would eat the brains. I just never did get into that. At this time, I was young and I was a good shot with a rifle of .22, and I would crack their heads, shoot their heads, and I had to quit shooting their heads because that's what the wife got to where she wanted to eat, was them heads, and I had to shoot them through the ribs. Oh, I could do it. I could do that good, but I ain't that good anymore. But that's all right. I don't have to be. But back in my younger days, we didn't have no deer. A deer was a very rarity thing, and I had hound dogs. We would use these hound dogs to chase foxes with. I had about a half a dozen other buddies had these dogs, and we'd get together in the evening and go out and have this fox chase, put these dogs out there and sit around the fire and listen at them run. That was our entertainment for us guys in the afternoon. They'd have arguments whose dog was ahead, whose dog's outrunning whose dogs and all that. But we never did have a knockdown drag out, but we had some good arguments. Oh, I forgot their name. Old Buck, I know. And old Bugle. Okay, I guess that's the way he barked. That was our entertainment for us guys. We'd do that 2 or 3 times a week in the evening. We'd take our dogs out. But that was all right. That was okay. I enjoyed it. Old Spot, he got to where he cheated on them a little bit. The dogs would run circles. A gray fox wouldn't take too bigger circles, a gray fox wouldn't, but a red fox, they'd make big circles. And this Spot dog I had, he got a little bit educated himself, and he'd go run a little while, and then after a while he'd cut out, and he'd sit down and wait for them to make another circle. And when they did, he'd put in right behind this fox, and he wouldn't run that fox very far, that he'd take a tree. But they didn't want my dog to do that. They called that cheating. But he'd make it hard on that fox for a little while. I used to watch George Beverly Shea a lot, and I'd try to sing like he did. I sang a lot back when I was younger. I guess I was happy and I just sang. I'd say, this is George Beverly Shea singing to you now. I could do pretty good for a few notes. I went to St. Louis one time after I was married. Had me a nice rented place. Probably had 3 kids at this time. And I hired in a Chevrolet. I maybe worked there 4 weeks. And I guess it was a 57 Chevrolet that didn't sell. So they had a layoff, and that took me. And as soon as I laid off, I went back to Vulcan, of course. Got me a log truck probably and haul logs, and I tried that for a while, and they got to where they wouldn't pay me nothing for them, so I thought, well, I'm going to have to make a change some way. They ain't paying me enough, I can't live on this. So I'll just get me a sawmill. So I bought me an old sawmill and never knowed nothing about them. And back at this time, the circle saw, they hadn't got to where they put inserted teeth in them yet. They was just a solid saw. And I had to learn how to swedge that tooth out to make it clear itself. And I got an old Buick engine out of a car and used for power unit. You'd step on the accelerator with 1 foot, get that saw going up about so many circles, and then pull the log into it, and it'll saw it. Now, hey, that's poor folks. Poor folks did that. But I was smart enough, I ain't bragging, I was smart enough, I made it work for several years. Made a pretty good living for my time of life. Just got along pretty good. This old farm come up kind of for sale back there years ago, and I got enough for a down payment and made a down payment on it. It's 600 acres. And I got it bought. Had it partly paid for. I need a house. So I went to sawmill and boards and built me a house, and I'm still in that house.
Do you remember how much you paid for the land or for the materials?
I think it was $3,500. $3,500 back then was a heap big bunch of money. Me and the wife went to work on making us home, so we got us a home made. And I guess I got 3 bedrooms. 3 bedrooms it did have. In fact, at that time, Bab, when I built my house, there were still lots of poor people around this community. And I got my house built. We was one of them that had running water and a bathroom and all that. We'd never had that, really. I married my wife in June the 25th, 1949. And her and I had seven kids.
What was it like when you guys found out you were pregnant for the first time?
What have you done to me now, Lord? You know, you can be blessed and don't know it, really. Really. You can be blessed and don't know it. And that's what it was. Now, we finally halfway growed up together. She lived up the word a mile or two, and I lived down there. But I never cared for her that much, you know. You're going to marry someone, you got to love them if you're going to get along and love one another and have a good life. And that's what it wound up being. It was with me, I'm sure, and I think it was with her, best I could tell. She died in 1955. No, that ain't right, I'm sorry. She died in 1905. Went off and left me. She was a dandy though, and I loved her. Got along good, had a happy life. Miss her yet. She's been gone about 20 years, and I miss her yet. But she had a lot of respect for me. And she'd be talking with her friends, and I'd hear her say something. She'd quote me, and it said, "That's what Bud said." And Bud said it was gospel, and her book, that's the way it was. She had a lot of respect for me. We would drive 15 miles to Piedmont and go to the show. We'd drive down and they'd have an evening show, and then they'd have one later. We'd have 2 different film shows. That was our main recreation, Charlotte and I was, when we was growing up. to go to the show. The best thing we had going. We didn't have a McDonald's, didn't have nothing, like that. But she wound up being the best cook in the neighborhood. If you don't believe me, you just ask anybody around. And when the snow started falling, just go to Charlotte's for donuts. She'd start making donuts when the snow started falling, and we'd have good food. She made an awful good cook. I got a daughter, Susie, is copied off from her real good. She's a good cook. I took a notion we ought to get married, so we just got married. But I'd do it again. I would do it again. She was a little more up on the hill than I was. Her folks had a few dollars and had a little better life than we did. McGarity was her pastor there at church. I told him we wanted to get married, so next Sunday we went before the preacher and he said the words for us, and I do, and that took care of that. But I had a good woman, and she made me what I am, more so. But she got a blood issue. Her body didn't produce enough blood for her to live on, and she took a few blood transfusions, and finally that didn't work, and she just drifted off. She was a wonderful person. She held no grudge against anybody. She's just everybody's okay, and if they do something a little wrong, that'll be okay down the road, She was more lenient with people than I was. I was a little bit short-tempered back in my younger days. That everything didn't go to suit me too good. But my wife felt like everybody was doing good. And that's the way it was with her. It wasn't no put on or nothing. It's just, she was just that kind of a person. Everything's all right. Everything's all right. But I wasn't always all right with me. I don't know how come the wife stayed with me through all that. But she never lost faith in me. She never lost faith in me. She always said, if that's what Bud said, that was gospel. That's wonderful that you can marry a partner like that. I should have been more considerate of my wife. If I had her to do over, I would. I brag very little on my wife, and I didn't realize she made me until after she's gone. I had 3 boys and 3 girls. Lost 2 of my boys. My older boy, he got lung trouble and died. My second boy, he was in his 50s, cutting timber, and a treetop fell out on him and killed him. Oh, I didn't go back to my first daughter. My first daughter died at 6 years old. She was born and had a deformed heart, and her heart beat probably 3 times more than it ought to. And her chest drove the way out here on one side, her ribs did, for her heart, give her heart room to beat. She lived till she was 6 years old. That come nearer to kill me than anything happened to me, losing that girl. For I learned to love her, and she didn't complain. She just had as much fun as any other of the kids did. But she died kind of suddenly. Her heart just quit. It just beat as long as it could. But I had heart trouble too, and they cut me open and went in and put a metal valve in my heart. They done that in 1989, and I'm still going. I don't understand it, but that's the way it is. Amazing what they can do with that heart. It really is. I can't even number the grandkids and the great grandkids. I just kind of laid that aside. But if my wife was living, she'd have the number on her kid. I don't have nothing on it. A few years back, I'd been a smarter guy, I could tell you stuff. But here's what happened to me. I had a mini stroke of the brain and lost my memory. That's what I told my doctor, and he never did say yea or nay on it, but that's the way it was. One day I got up and I didn't know which way to go, to Arlington or to Piedmont or nowhere. But I've got a little better than that as the time went on, but I still don't have no memory of my part of my life. I got 3 good daughters, 1 boy left. My boy, I get up and go with him about every day. Well, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't get up. And I'd lay there and get stiff, get to where you can't get up. I don't like to get up and go. I don't like that. But for your better health, you better get up and go. So that's the way it is. No, I never knowed my ancestors that much. On my mom's side, I knew her dad and my mom. They was wonderful people, her dad and mom was. Especially her mother, my grandma, Tally. She was a wonderful person. Make the best biscuits you ever ate. She just didn't make them, throw them in the pan. She patted them and made them right. On my dad's side, I never knowed them people. Never knowed Dad's people. They were just poor folks and poor folks. My grandpa Tally and my grandma, they lived on the bank of Big Creek. And he fished a lot and got a lot of their living out of Big Creek. They ate a lot of stuff out of the river, out of the creek. Fish and frogs and whatever grows along the river. They ate pretty good. But my other grandparents, they lived back in the flatwoods, and there ain't nothing out there. And no, poor ground. They don't grow nothing. But that's where they wanted to live, and that's where they live. They didn't want to get out of there. I read the Bible quite a bit. Don't read it enough, I'm sure. But the Lord lets me live on anyhow. I never did want to be a mean person, really. I was always a church builder, really. I served on the deacon board for different years. Anything needed to be done, I'd kind of push for it to be done. We built up on BB Highway for first several years. And then we got a little opportunity to buy this piece of land up here on 49 Highway. And I persisted that pretty hard. I took that upon my own self that I would see a church built. Now, that was my desire, to see a new church. And we have it. We got it now. It's in here. It's a dandy, ain't it, Bub?
It's wonderful.
It's a dandy little church.
It's dandy, yes.
Well, if you want to look at someone properly, is witness to that church to be in there, I would come to the top of the list, no doubt, because I pushed this. Brother Garner, he was a preacher at that time. But God's got to lay these things on your heart for you to be happy and contented to do it. I worked hard at it. I didn't work out in front. I was in the back scenery of it. I kept pushing it. But there's a good bunch of people here, and they still are. But I'm as proud of this as Mr. Anybody. Really, I brag on myself to self every once in a while, how well it's come apart. Well, the faith I never lost, babe. Never lost, and don't intend to. But maybe in faith, I know that, but for as being a lover of God and a lover of Jesus Christ, I have them within my heart, but there's other things in life that you got to take care of. I think that's right, but just leave it to the God and they'll take care of it, they say. But I was always his helper. Well, you got to be living to work and provide if you're going to marry. Now, I got some good grandson, good in-law, good. The girls married pretty good. You can't pick them; they got to pick them for themselves. And I've been pretty good at that, letting them be. I never argued with them. Just be sure you love your companion, because it's going to take some love to get you through it. Really. Well, my legacy may be, hey, if you got to make a living, come up with something that you can make a living with and stick with it. That's what I did. when we bought this farm, I got me a little sawmill and I went to making boards. And you get enough boards, you can get some money out of them. So that's what you need to do is look ahead. Look ahead. And kind of plan yourself in the midst of it. I don't know why God has took care of me. I don't know why the Lord has took care of me and blessed me like He has. I don't brag on my Lord that much. But I honor God in everything I do. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
How great thou art, how great thou art. O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior, unto thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior, unto thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart? Then I shall bow in humble adoration and then proclaim, my God, how great thou art.